Hi, I'm Steph Thompson, founder of the London Voice Boutique. Welcome to LVB Presents. We're a voiceover agency based in Soho, London, and in this second series, we're going to take you on a little journey behind the scenes with some of our actors. But also, I'm going to take you on a detour and talk to people on the production side of the industry to give you some of the fun stories and advice from the other side. Today I welcome award-winning Luke Isom and Stuart Allen Hind, two very successful sound engineers who have been at Jungle for a very long time.
Hello.
Haven't you? Hello.
Hey.
Hi chaps, how are you?
Guys. All right, thank you. Can't complain.
Good, good. Thank you for agreeing to come on the podcast. You are both sound engineers, and I just want to talk about what is a sound engineer. Can you just explain that? Because there's quite a lot of people who listen to our podcast who aren't in the industry, and I want to explain, what do you do as a job? Who would like to take that one?
You can take it, Lizzie, yeah. By all means, you take it.
So I'd say, I feel like it would be taking the elements that you'd generally hear on like a sound mix. So you've got your voiceover, your dialogue, which is recorded on set, your music, and sound effects. And we're like basically balancing all of those and like taking the time to create a nice consistent balance between all of them that will sound good on TV.
Yeah.
A lot of it's recording those sounds ourselves, so like the voiceover, important. That's usually how our sessions start, we've been recording that. Cleaning up the dialogue from on set, adding all the sound effects in, and then just blending it all together into something that sounds good.
You also
Absolutely.
do a lot of sort of sound design, which is another thing that is not necessarily what everybody understands. Can you explain what sound design is? Because that's what you guys are. You're sound engineers and sound designers these days, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yep.
What would you say sound design is, Stewie?
So sound design, well, it can be used in numerous things. It can be used in theatres, it can be used for TV, for cinema, for enhancing a film, to give you a feeling, an emotion that maybe without it you don't get. It can be used to, like, maybe something might be recorded on set that's not recorded well. So it might just be as simple as recording footsteps, or recording a glass of water being poured, or something like that. But it's all to design a sonic. It's to sonically design an environment to give the viewer maybe a bit more emotional awareness about. Or emotional feeling about where the scene's going, but sonically.
Okay, so it's a bit more depth to the audio,
to the piece,
I guess. Yeah,
completely.
Yeah, that's really helpful. My next question, before we get into the voiceover recording, which is something I want to discuss with you, can you sort of explain how you got into this job? How did you end up being sound engineers? Because quite a lot of people I know, sort of my son's generation, who are 16, 17, are looking at how to get into that sort of world, and it's not easy. So how did you both get into it?
It's not easy. Shall I take this?
Go for after you.
How did I get into it? I got into it, you know what, I just used to make a lot of music, like on my laptop, and I used to, buy in bits of software, bits of gear, and then start making quirky beats and whatnot on my computer, and thought, really, like, how can I do this all day, every day,
Right.
And then I had to do a week's work experience as part of what, my school, being at school, what you have to do. So I managed to get a week's work experience here.
Did you?
Yeah, and I absolutely loved it. I had an absolute ball.
Wow.
Like, it was just brilliant. It was so good. I got to sit on sessions, help out in the kitchen, go and record some sound effects, all sorts. And then I was like, after that week, I was just like, I just want to work here. Yeah.
So did you come straight in from school then, after school?
Yeah,
Did you start as a runner?
Yeah, 18.
And worked your way up?
Worked my way up the ladder.
That's
then you go
fantastic.
to assistant sound engineer, and then you go to
And
to
you
engineer.
learn on the job then, rather than going to do a course specifically?
Exactly, yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
And what about you,
was me.
Luke?
So I, strangely, my dad did this in the 70s.
What, a sound
So
engineer?
yes, my dad was a sound engineer in Soho, around the corner at a place called John Wood's.
Right.
And then Saunders and Gordon.
I know.
Yeah. So like I was aware of this sort of line of work.
Right.
So at uni I studied music, but then I always kind of knew that this was an option as well.
Right.
And then basically it came down to the uni was finishing, and just basically just looked out for any running jobs anywhere, and I found one and got it, luckily.
Yeah.
And then just slowly worked my way up. But interesting with what Stu was saying,
Yeah.
not going to uni, is that I don't think me going to uni served any benefit.
Right. Well, this is really interesting because I have this discussion. My son is 16 and, you know, I didn't go to university. I started as a runner 30 odd years ago, and I worked my way up. And people are always saying, you know, go to university, get a degree in media or music or whatever. And I actually don't know that that is beneficial anymore. I think it can be useful for certain parts, but for a lot of the practical side, would you say that actually just starting as a runner, working up?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like my main problem when I started working was they had to basically crush bad habits out of me that I'd got from uni.
Oh, really?
So like I had like something I might have learned at uni which would have been good in another application.
Yeah.
Wasn't necessarily good for what we need in this role we have here. So it was kind of like having to remold me, where if you don't have those habits,
you literally learn from scratch how they want you to do it.
Yeah, exactly. So it's kind of actually maybe a bit
Yeah.
smoother. However, though, it's not saying not to go to uni, because if I never did, then I wouldn't have ever moved to London.
Right.
And I wouldn't ever be in this situation.
Okay. So there's pros and there's cons.
So sometimes it's good.
Yeah.
It's like definitely good to go to uni.
But it's not essential.
No, it's not essential. You don't have to do it to like have a career.
That's what
in this industry.
That's what I think, but I don't. I think you've got to have a willing personality and willing to just crack
Oh,
on. And,
yeah.
You know,
if you don't have
Definitely.
that, yeah,
you're
it's not
going to start as a runner, are you?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's tough. Those are tough days. Those
Yeah.
running days. And it's
God
like,
forbid.
I know, right? I did 3 years of running, and it was like, okay, I'm that dedicated. 'Cause it is bloody hard work.
That's good going. That
I was
is.
going to say 3 years is pretty.
Yeah.
It's a stint.
Different places.
Yeah.
God.
Nearly a World Cup.
Anyway, so I want to ask you, what do you enjoy most about this job as a sound engineer? What do you really get from it?
I think, you know what I really like? It's moments of, I like the moments when you capture a delivery or create a feeling that makes people feel so immersed in what you're doing sonically, that it's like, damn, if you could be in that room, Steph, it would, like, it's almost tear-jerking. Like moments when you're recording an actress giving some lines or a bit of dialogue that's like really powerful.
Yeah.
And actually seeing them get to that place, or working with them to get to that place, or like, I don't know, building a bit of a sonic bed, or executing, even something as simple as executing a music edit, where you're like, damn, that's kind of cool. It just hits really good.
Place.
Yeah, those moments of satisfaction for me.
And everybody in the room suddenly goes, yes, you've brought it all together.
I'll tell you what's
Totally.
along those same lines, when you hit like, when you're doing a VO recording and it's like a motive piece, you have a habit where you stop looking at the script.
Totally.
So and then you're just like looking at the brief, and you're just like, and then it ends and you're like, oh yeah, shit. It's so lovely. It's so when you get taken out of the room with like what you're doing,
But why do you need to look at the script as a sound engineer? What are you doing?
Why do I need to look at it? To check the words are right.
Oh, right, okay. Because you're making pointers.
Yeah,
of what they're saying.
like if they've like missed a word, and like if there's like a good bit that they've taken, like if there's like one specific section taking a note of that.
So you do have to.
But like when you like fully like disassociate from what's in front of you, and you're like, wow, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
But then
Then you quickly play it. I'm just going to play that back.
Exactly.
Quickly looking at the script. Oh, you can fake that. That's fine. Okay, so many of my artists talk about, from my previous series, that they like to try and make friends with the sound engineer when they go into a booth, because it can be really intimidating walking into a room with several clients sitting there, or producers, directors. They don't really know who's who. They don't necessarily get introduced to who's who.
God, do I get introduced?
Well, exactly. And so they look at the sound engineer and go, right, he's my friend for that session. And they would look to you for any tricky situations if they felt that it wasn't going well, or if they thought it was going well. You know, they kind of look to the sound engineer for guidance. Are you aware of that as your role? And would you agree that that is a good thing for artists to do? What are your feelings about that? Because that came up a lot. I didn't realise.
I'd say yeah.
Yeah.
So I find it like if your VO is uncomfortable, or like not in a safe space, but like in a place where they can just be creative and do their thing, you're not going to get much out of them. especially if there's like you said, if there's like a lot of people, it can be very overwhelming,
Yeah.
especially when when you're on the other side and you're in the booth
Yeah.
and you're just in this glass box with everyone looking
Yes.
at you. It's a bit much. So then, yeah, I find a lot of the time there are things like, say, if directions are getting given and it's getting too confusing, quite often I'll have the VO go like, right. And you can see, like, I feel like it's like a please help.
Yes.
And that's kind of when I'd step in and say, like, even if I wasn't the one giving the direction at the time, I'd maybe just try and simplify
Yes.
everything and then like break it down into a step by step. Let's just do this little bit
Yeah.
first.
Do you find yourselves, okay, so this is a conversation I've been having quite a lot, when you've got a room full of clients, and I've been on that side as a producer with lots of clients and directors or whoever wanting their opinion to be heard.
Yeah.
A voiceover who's looking a little bit like, what is it exactly that they're wanting from me? Because I've got one person saying, can you do it faster? Another one saying, can you do it slower? Can you say it slightly more emphasis on this particular word? And la la la.
A bit
And
more
you've
of a
got-
smile, but
Exactly. And like, but not too cheesy. But la, la, la. Do you find yourself, how do you approach those sessions? Because I have a thing that when I produce, that I would ask the engineer to turn the talk back off and just let's get one voice. Let's just go to that, collate the information, and either the director tells it or I would collate it and say, right, sound engineer, please could you explain this to the voiceover, so that is one voice directing.
Yeah.
Do you find yourself in that situation regularly, or actually do you find that it's not that bad anymore? Where are you at with it? Because I used to find it quite...
I find it's frustrating when you do end up in that situation. I feel like I've been quite lucky and I haven't ended up in that too bad a situation too many times. But I do wish people were more. That's really lovely hearing that you were like that producing.
Yeah.
I feel like there are occasions where it could be a lot more defined like that.
I think that for me as a producer, I knew that I would get a better result out of the voice artist if it was one voice, because it's so confusing when there are loads. And so you have to have the confidence, and some junior assistants might not have that confidence.
Yeah.
That comes maybe with a bit more experience. But I would be like, okay, turn the talk back off. What is the information that we're trying to achieve? Right. Stewie, Luke, whoever, could you please now just direct that as one voice? And if you, as a sound engineer, was like, not really sure what you're just trying to do, then I would take that role and do it myself. Yeah. But I always felt that it had to be one voice because it is too confusing.
Yeah.
And I think that's when your voice artist gets flustered and overwhelmed, and then just like not sure. Some more experienced ones will be like, yeah, whatever, it's fine. But there are obviously quite a lot out there who don't necessarily have that experience. So how do you find yourselves in that situation? Do you ever go, what is it you want?
So I tend to find myself in how I tend to operate my VO sessions now is get everyone in, VO settled, everyone's happy. We'll have a quick look, if it's like for TV, we'll have a look through the films, and then I'll be open talk back, and I'll get the director or creatives, whoever, to brief the whole room, so we're all kind of on the same page, and then I'll kind of take it from there for a bit.
Yep.
Going with it until I've got something I'm happy with.
Yeah.
And then I'll go back and then have a playthrough for the creatives, and then so it's kind of broken down a bit.
Yeah.
But kind of along the same lines.
Yeah.
I guess.
And do you, Stewie, have a similar? How do you feel about the talkback being on or off?
You know what? Generally, it depends on the situation, because it's quite I find it quite. Sometimes I'll have it off and the voiceover will be like, oh, I can't hear anyone.
Oh, right.
So for
that
me,
also happens.
It's
a
all
lot.
about I think the key word here, Steph, is communication.
Yeah.
So I'll be like, guys, just so you know, or whoever it is in the booth, voiceover, I'm just going to turn the voiceover, just going to turn the talk back off for a second while we just collate some feedback. Bear with us. Bang. That way everyone else in the room knows that the talkback's off. The voiceover knows it's off. So there's no weird is it off?
Yeah, because I used to really struggle that.
Well, I was going to say this also works in the other way. Yeah. Especially in the world of Zoom now.
Yeah.
So say
totally.
the clients have joined.
Totally.
As soon as they've joined, I'm like, oh, hey, I'll talk back on to the voiceover, and everyone can hear and be like, oh, so and so's just joined. To you on the line, hey, how you doing? Just so you know, we've got so and so in the booth, we've got this in the room.
Totally.
And then again, total communications, everyone knows that who's that.
And
then everyone can hear who's listening and not.
Do you have a lot of Zoom? Because I've never done a Zoom session. I've never had to do that. that was, but you know, since COVID,
Yeah.
how are they still happening? Quite a lot, Zoom sessions.
I'd say it's still basically every session.
Do you think it loses something if the people aren't in the room? And I'm not saying that as a critical, but don't you feel like when
Yeah.
you're all in the room together, you
It's
can
better.
It is.
bounce off each other creatively a lot easier? But people still don't come in, do they?
No.
So is it stilted or is it?
Well,
Or is it just harder?
I feel
I'm
like
not here to. It's just
the thing is, it's
it's
easier
Right.
for them.
Yes.
Like I feel like because they can just do a meeting, like if they're in meetings back to back all day,
Yeah.
they can just be at home.
Yeah.
They don't have to come into town and then leave.
Yeah.
But then,
Do you think it adds an extra element to you guys in the room?
oh yeah, it really does, and also just everything's like because I think it's the attentiveness.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot more being like. Again, like if you're looking for approval on a take or something,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
you're like, oh, so yeah, guys, how do you feel about this?
Silent.
Oh, really?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like it's so awkward because you're just looking at the VA like,
Just waiting
and
for
then
someone to speak.
and then, hello.
How funny.
Steph, honestly,
It's hard.
it's most sessions to get the ball kind of rolling and get people warmed up, like and get the conversations going. Like I find, I don't know, Luke, if you find this, but I have to step up in the directing initially.
Oh, okay.
Oh
get,
yeah,
like,
yeah.
You know,
So
but
it really has shifted since COVID. It's changed a
Yeah,
lot.
because like I said, even if we have a session that is attended, likely there will still be at least one person on Zoom.
Yeah.
Like or
Probably creative director or someone because they
Yeah.
can only come. And I
Yeah.
get that, and that must be so much easier for producers to go right. Okay, you can
right, you can just pop
zoom in
swim
at this point. Yeah.
yeah.
But I mean, it must be so much harder for
Yeah,
you. And
but again, the level of communication between, because you've got the signal sending over the internet to Zoom, to in the room, to in the booth.
people's Wi-Fi from home.
Yeah,
delays.
like trying to like control all of that now.
Yeah.
It's another
It's a bit
element.
stressful. Yeah.
That is a whole other element.
And then also another thing, talking of VOs and Zoom. Sorry, I'm going off on a tangent here. Webcams.
Yeah.
Do you ever have any comments about webcams for like when on Zoom?
No.
So
So
when
some
yeah.
VO, when some clients when they're doing a VO session, they like their VO to be on webcam,
Right.
but some VOs really hate just having a webcam sat there,
Yes.
like because most of the time everyone else has their webcams off,
Oh really?
so they're just there looking at themselves in the booth.
Oh right.
And 6 other people just staring at
Yeah.
them, but they can't see them.
wow.
So it's
Is that when
it's-
they're recording from home?
Yeah, no, just
No.
recording in the.
Oh,
Look, we have to
really?
set up a web.
we set
So
it up as
I-
an option.
Yeah, I only do it if I'm requested.
Right.
What the
Yeah, like if
webcam?
they're like, oh, it'd be good to like see. Oh,
Yeah.
can we get them on? And I'd be like, yeah, I'll set it up. But because I just feel like it sort of throws them off
Yes,
quite a bit.
That must do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I will sometimes give the voiceover an option, you know, if they want it on, they can have it on. If they want it off, sometimes they're like, no, I don't care. Sometimes
Yeah.
they're like, yeah, can I have it off? And
Yeah.
whatever we can do to make the voices feel as comfortable
Well,
and as
yes.
at
Yeah,
home.
it just
get the
it comes
best
back to that
recording.
again.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'll feel a tension if they're anxious in their chest or in
Yeah.
their voice or
Yeah.
a wobble. So it's
Exactly. When the
Sounds
microphone
like-
is that close, you're going to hear everything, aren't you?
everything.
Brilliant. Okay, so what advice? Because I've asked this to quite a few people, but what advice would you guys give to a voiceover going into the booth for the first time?
Ooh, for the first time.
I mean, obviously nerves is going to be a thing, so you're aware of that. But how can you help
Yeah.
with that? Or what would you say might help with that?
Do you know what? Often, okay, I don't know if this is the first time, but this is generally the process I do, is just like, hey, before we get everyone on board, let's just run the script a few times to get you familiar with the words. You know, often people are dyslexic or might
Yeah.
struggle with reading a bit. Just get familiar with the text, run it a few times, give you 5-10 minutes to go through it. And that way, that often relaxes people to kind of get
Yes.
familiar with the word, familiar with the words, familiar with the scripts. So that's quite a good way to just go in, I think. Cold, like particularly for someone who might struggle with reading a bit.
Yeah. I don't. Usually, the initial setup, I'll tend to take a bit longer with that. So I'll go in like when it's like setting up the height of the microphone and everything, and like I'll make sure the mic's turned off so no one else can hear us.
Right.
And I'll just have like a bit of a chat.
Yeah.
Ask them
Good.
how their day is.
Well, then
And then
it's
you're just and then
working.
that's it, just having like a little bit of like being like, oh, have you seen these scripts before? And then I'll be like, no, neither have I.
Okay,
Classic. We'll have a little laugh
brilliant.
about it, and we'll just try and like kind of make it a bit like more casual.
Yeah. And I think that's why I've had so many artists saying they befriend the voiceover, the engineer, and I think that's brilliant because you guys are obviously doing that where you're like, it's okay, I've got your back.
Yeah.
I'm going to let you run this through a few times, just doing my levels, you know.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
are you
Yeah,
actually?
yeah.
You're just helping them to sort of
Yeah,
get
have a little
themselves
practice,
comfortable.
yeah.
I think that's brilliant. That makes you very, very considerate sound engineers. Well done, boys. Okay, who would you most like to direct in a voiceover booth in a dream world? Like, who in the world would you like to most direct?
I know who my head's jumped to.
Who?
But I'd be terrified.
Well, that's all right.
Ian McKellen.
Really?
I'd love, yeah. It'd be one. It's like my one, because
Yeah.
obviously when you get celebrities in, you've got to be professional.
Yes.
But I think it'd be my one fanboy.
Would you really
I'd
struggle to talk?
yeah.
Hi.
Hello, sir.
That's really sweet.
I'd love to record Sir Ian McKellen.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Also, it's one of those things. It'd be whatever he was doing.
You'd be like, yeah, that was great.
He could be reading like a kid's poem, and it'd be beautiful. And
Yeah.
I'd be so happy.
No, that's a fair shout. What about you, Stewie?
Good one, Steph. You know what? I had a year recently where it was just like iconic person after
Really?
iconic
Like
person. It
who?
was mad. It just was like, what's gone on in the last 6 months? Like, I'm just getting all these voices coming in that are like, I had Olivia Colman in at one point, which was
Brilliant.
really cool.
Queen.
That was the morning after she won like an
Oh,
Emmy.
really?
Yeah, so she just came from the hotel, literally with the Emmy in a bag and a whatever, you know.
Fantastic.
Literally
know
rocked up
this.
at 9 a.m. Looked like
She'd
a
been
bit
out all
shell
night.
shocked. Yeah. It was like, you know, I think we brought her a bottle of champagne, so congratulations. And she was just so lovely, so humble, just like, you know, when you just meet someone and you're like, yeah, you're exactly kind of what I
Brilliant.
want you to.
Yeah.
What I thought you might be like, and you are even better. So we just, really lovely chat with her. And also, what do they say? You know, you don't meet your role models is another thing, right?
Yeah.
So. I think there's something about when you meet someone and they're just
Exactly as you'd hope they would be.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
They're great. It's such a
Such a
pleasure.
joy.
Such a joy.
Fantastic. What is the most unusual voice direction you've given in a booth? There must have been some good ones over the years, I'm sure.
So there's one. With the,
Are you allowed to tell us?
No, so I didn't give it. It's back when I was in transfer. You probably remember this. And it was with another engineer for RNLI.
Oh yeah.
And it wasn't technically a voiceover section. It was for like a character.
Right.
And it's kind of dark.
Oh
We're allowed
no.
to talk about.
Yeah, no, so basically it's the RNLI and it was about drowning.
Yeah.
And it was basically, they had like a big bucket of water and they were just pretending to drown. like quite literally, like we had like a big spread, what's it called, like tarpaulin on the floor.
Oh, really?
Like, it was really like intensive. Like,
Oh wow! So that was for creating Foley.
yeah,
basically, sound
yeah,
effects.
but there were words in it.
Yeah. That's so weird. One of my other artists said a little while ago he had to do a voiceover underneath the water, but I don't think it was him for this.
Oh no.
But I was
That
like,
years
how do you
ago.
mic that up?
There's a little.
You can do an underwater mic.
Yeah, they've got underwater microphones.
Oh, cool.
Well, I want to know what job that would be for.
I know. He said he
Yeah, I
had
want
to
to go
stick
check
his
that
head.
out.
Yeah, I'm gonna have
I
to
can't
ask
imagine what
him.
that would even sound like.
Yeah.
That's the kind of stuff that's so cool, isn't it? Like
Yeah.
those projects where when you're back to capturing like a real, like, I don't know, something that really takes you somewhere, like that's the ones that I love.
Yeah.
Like,
Or creating
Yeah.
those sound effects. Are they sometimes
Really?
the most unusual things you're asking
Yeah, that's
people
the
to
thing.
do?
Something really odd. You're just
Yeah.
like, wow, that's cool.
yeah.
Yeah.
Totally transports you and can totally create a feeling and a mood in a room.
So you have to be quite creative sometimes with the sound effects. Have you had scripts turn up and you have to create the sound effect from scratch and think, how am I creating this?
Totally.
Yeah.
Does that happen
All the
quite a lot?
time.
Oh, right,
Yeah.
okay.
All the
Yeah,
time.
quite literally.
Really?
Yeah.
Even
What's-
down from
okay.
really simple ones, like it's really odd. So I was doing a short film about a homeless person and trying to imagine what was, like, say it had like a plastic bag and trying to imagine what he had in his bag.
Oh, right.
And he had to throw it over his head and smash it.
Oh, really?
And I'd be like, what's actually in there? So I had to like make up a random song and things and like try out different combinations.
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
So make it as realistic as possible.
Make it as realistic as possible, but then it can be a lot more fun than just a plastic bag.
Yeah. And any others that spring to mind that are particularly unusual that you've had to create? Because you do have to be quite creative. I mean, it's not just knobs and sort of twiddling things. You have to actually be quite a creative brain to...
You have to think outside the box, because a lot of the times, you know, you can't get a flock of birds into the booth. So you might have to...
Funny that.
Funny that, isn't it? Yeah, you can't get a flock of birds in the booth, so you've got to, you know, grab some leather gloves and flap them together, create the sounds of wings flying away, whatever. So sometimes you'll be searching on the library and you're like, nah, everything's just not hitting.
Yeah.
Like, what else can I do to get the sonic sound needed? Like, and that's when it, you know, you go to like, right, what if I grab some tin foil, slow it down, add some reverb, then you've got thunder.
Oh, brilliant.
You know what I mean? Things like,
little tips.
what else could I do, to create the sound, because I can't go and there's no thunder right now, or whatever. Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
I love that. Okay, chaps, last question. It's 5 o'clock on a Friday night. And you've just finished your last recording session.
Yeah.
Well, 6 o'clock probably for you guys. What do you
8
do?
PM.
Yeah, right.
We've got extended over on by 2 hours.
Oh, okay. It's 8 p.m. on a Friday night. You've just finished your final recording session of the week. What are you going to do in Soho? Over to you, boys. Where would you go?
To the ship for a pint.
Oh.
Is it the ship? Water
It's
Street.
the closest one.
Get me out. Over to the pub. Any other little
pub.
nooks and crannies you like to go to?
Where,
Trisha's.
What's Trisha's?
Excuse me.
Really? What is it?
So it's down by, do you know the NHS walking centre on 5th Street?
Yes, unfortunately I do.
we all do, we've all been.
Broke my finger once, what?
So it's opposite that, and it's just like a little door.
Okay.
It looks like someone's front door to their house.
Yeah.
And then you go down into the basement, and it's just this. I'd say it's maybe twice the size of this room.
Yeah.
And it's just a really shitty dive bar.
Is it?
But it's awesome. It's so much fun. Like usually, like sometimes there's live bands.
I
Sometimes
know
there's
where
like
it is. It's
vinyl DJs.
opposite. It's
It's
opposite,
literally
right?
directly opposite, and there's just like a little
I
door.
went to a party there once.
And you'll probably only, like, it will just be a door that's maybe a bit open with one security guard stood outside. And
Yes.
other than that, you wouldn't know.
Yes, I have
great.
been there. It's really cool.
It's really fun.
Wow.
Really grotty, but really good.
there's a few of those like hidden
there's
bars, aren't there? Where
There's a
you
little
go
place
in...
opposite Old Delane Lee called the Little Scarlet Door.
Ooh.
Which is, again, well, it's just another little door.
I just knew that Luke would know. all the little doors in Soho that he had to knock on to drink.
all those doors. Getting all the
Brilliant.
knowledge.
Well, listen, on that happy note, thank you so much for coming on my podcast. It's been really helpful.
Oh, thanks for having
Thanks
us.
very much.
Cheers.
Cheers. And that's it for the show. Hope you liked it, and if you did, please rate and review the show wherever you get your podcasts. LVB Presents was presented by me, Steph Thompson, and produced by Mike Hanson for Pod People Productions, and recorded by Sean Dios at Jungle Studios in Soho, London. See you next time.
Pod People.